My name is Travis Short, the Commissioning Director for Henderson Building Solutions. This is going to be an introduction to building commissioning. First, I'll start off with a little bit about our commissioning team organization. As I mentioned, I'm Travis Short. I'm the Commissioning Director and based out of Lenexa. John Jensen is our Western Regional Manager, and he's based out of Las Vegas. Jason Jenkins is our Central Region Manager, and he's based in Lenexa with me. And then John Pizzetta, our Eastern Regional Manager, is in Eastern Pennsylvania. We have 20 plus commissioning professionals throughout the nation to support our projects. Now I'm going to go into a little bit about our team, and I just want to highlight some of the unique aspects of our team. We have professional engineers. We're certified by NEB in both building systems commissioning and air and hydronic balancing. Also certified by ACG in commissioning. And then when you look at that team expertise, we have, as I mentioned, MEP engineers, people that are very versed in lab systems, building controls, balancing, refrigeration. Uniquely, I might add, we have master electricians on staff and elevator and conveyance system experts. And finally, I'd like to highlight that critical power and infrastructure expertise that we utilize for various projects, whether they're an office building, a college, or a mission critical data center. So all this expertise is pulled together to provide an awesome commissioning experience and what we call best in class for our clients. Now let's get into a little bit about what is commissioning. So we're going to go a little bit into what it is and what it isn't. So commissioning, we're taking that owner's requirements, we're analyzing it, we're assessing it, we're developing tests, we're verifying that those owner's projects requirements are realized in that design process initially, and then all throughout construction, we're the owner's representation out there in the field with the construction team and the engineering team to verify that they ultimately get, at the end of the day, what they're looking for. It's really focused on energy consuming equipment, your HVAC, lighting, domestic water, renewable energy sources are becoming more and more part of the project. And then also, I'd like to highlight that we're seeing a lot more building envelope commissioning getting incorporated into that project. All awesome stuff, and it really is providing impact to a building and its operations. And finally, I'd like to discuss how much of a collaborative team approach it really is. And I always consider the commissioning guy the glue that holds the team together. We're there to work with the owner, the design team, and the construction team to, at the end of the day, make sure that owner has a building that works as it's intended. Now, what is commissioning not? We're not contractor startup. We're not doing control startup. We're not doing testing, adjusting, and balancing. Can we? Sure, sometimes we do, but that's not what commissioning is. We're not doing a punch list, and it's not just checklists that we're filling out or having contractors fill out. It's so much more than that. And as mentioned above, it is a very, very owner-focused process. There are two different types of commissioning people adhere to. You got your process versus technical commissioning. Henderson Building Solutions really focuses more on that technical commissioning aspect versus the process. Process commissioning is a really sample-based process, very, very focused on paperwork and reviews of different aspects of the systems, not really focused on, in my opinion, making sure that building works to the owner's intent. It's typically a competitive bid process. Low bid usually wins. Not always the best approach. A lot of times, process commissioning is used when you just need to check that box. We did commissioning, and it's not valued as much. Whereas in technical commissioning, when you use that approach, involved from the project from the very beginning, very hands-on testing process. We have our own calibrated instrumentation that we're utilizing to test that equipment. I'd like to highlight that it's not only verifying that functionality, what we call functional performance testing, but we're also verifying the performance. We're taking measurements, analyzing that system, and making sure that it actually works. There's a nominal cost increase compared to the value received when looking at process versus technical commissioning. Why do commissioning? Really talked about it a couple slides ago. It's all about that collaboration and accountability. We are making sure that those buildings work as they are designed and intended by the owner. Every building is different. Design construction teams are also different too. I think we all can agree with that one. And that can be several different factors. The building type, the systems that are involved, all of that is can be very unique, and it's very building specific. I always say buildings are a living, breathing entity in and of themselves, and they will operate differently. Even if you use the same system type for a template type of building, that building will still have its own unique characterizations based upon where it was built and who built it, who did the controls. All these things factor in, and that's where the commissioning team comes in to help bridge that gap. We keep it going. We know all these different systems. We know all the different climate zones. We know everything to expect when it comes to these buildings. And then ultimately, it is required by most codes. IECC 2012 and beyond has required commissioning. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about codes and requirements for commissioning later. This is one of my favorite slides. So what this shows is that technical commissioning process when you take it to its fullest. Most people think of commissioning as just that acceptance phase. When we look at that, that's when the commissioning team's out there on the site every day, testing systems, going through systems. It's the funnest part of commissioning, don't get me wrong, but that is what most people think of when they think about commissioning. If you look, there's a bunch of more activities, if you will, that can be performed part of that commissioning. All the way at pre-design, where we're helping that owner develop their project requirements, reviewing basis of design by the engineering team, creating preliminary plans, updates, etc., design reviews, specifications, all of that stuff plays in to a building's success. That's why the commissioning process, when implemented early on, provides the most dividends and the most impact to a project. The other thing I'd like to note is ongoing and monitoring-based commissioning is becoming more and more prevalent. So that ongoing commissioning is, the commissioning doesn't stop when the construction team leaves and the commissioning team pulls off the job. It's an ongoing process, and it can look like several different things. You can do monitoring-based commissioning. You can also do yearly seasonal commissioning. I almost call that like a building tune-up. You'll come in and tune up that building, make sure all the settings are back where they need to be, and that can be a yearly thing. So as you can see, commissioning can be not just during the construction and acceptance phase, but also throughout the life of the building. Real quick on some comparisons between commissioning codes and requirements. As I mentioned, IECC is part of almost all projects. Anybody that's looked at a code knows there are exceptions. There's always an exception to that rule. But most projects anymore that are being designed right now will fall under IECC. There's also LEED, which has BD plus C and ID plus C, so building and interior. Different requirements from fundamental all the way to that enhanced option number 2, building envelope. As I mentioned, that is becoming more and more of a commissioning activity. New York, of course, has its own requirements, as does California. So Title 24 and Cal Green were kind of the first benchmarks when it came to standardizing and making commissioning a requirement. Just like IECC, there are some exceptions to that rule, but most of the California buildings will fall under Title 24 and Cal Green. I'd like to thank you for listening to this presentation. As you can see, my email is below, and feel free to contact me there with any questions. Thank you.